Alright, next up on the channel, we've got I.Joe Classified Series number 57, Serpentor and Air Chariot on Way I Got It Figured.
The way I got it figured.
Alright guys, welcome to Way I Got It Figured. We're back with another I.Joe Classified review and figure of the year contender, the Cobra Emperor Serpentor with his Air Chariot. I don't know, it's gonna be real tough to beat this guy. Waited a long time for his release, for news about him, for everything, you know. When I.Joe Classified Series started, I mean, it didn't take people long to start saying, hey, what if they did Serpentor? Well, no longer need to wonder. Serpentor is here, and he's here in a big way. So as you can see, he has a slip case cover very similar to Dr. Mindbender, who was number 43 in the series, with the DNA Cobra. He's got his I.Joe Classified symbols, all fours. And the only other character who has all fours is Snake Eyes. So there you go. 4 command, 4 bladed weapons, 4 strength, and 4 tactics. So of course, you know, he's all of that. On the back you have a mural of Serpentor in his war with Cobra Commander, you know, rallying the troops, leading Destro and some troops in the battle. This is from the comic, issue 50, when he led the defense of Springfield long enough for the inhabitants of Springfield to escape the holding action against G.I. Joe. And here is part 5 of Arise, Serpentor Arise, where he made a throne of the statue of Abraham Lincoln in Lincoln Memorial when they attempted to conquer Washington, D.C. So yeah, they're definitely taken from the cartoon and the comic. One thing that I would like to point out, you know, as a personal suggestion or request or hope, is that they make this version of Serpentor. I would love to see that. That'd be a great variant, a great way to make another version of the character, perhaps just on a card. You know, he sort of was running around with a pistol, and he cauterized his own wound because he got shot. That's a, you know, and he cauterized his own wound almost as a, you know, as a manipulation, as a political stunt, so to speak, to his to the Vipers that were held under his command. Serpentor being perhaps the ultimate politician. All right, so we're gonna get Serpentor out of his prison and show you what's up. Serpentor was a Hascon exclusive in the US, so the only way you could get him was during the 2022 Hascon online convention Hasbro hold every year. Folks in other countries were able to get them some other ways. I believe people in Canada were picking them up at GameStop. I don't know if that's going to work or happen in America, but, you know, it would be nice. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of consternation amongst fans who weren't able to obtain one of these. You know, and I think collecting is best when everybody can kind of get what they want. So I hope he does become available some other way. You know, people definitely want this figure, and I know the aftermarket prices for him on eBay are already like, you know, silly. You know, but that's capitalism. All right, here we got Serpentor with his air chariot lab situation with his extra accessories, sort of arrayed inside these packages similar to Dr. Mindbender. And just right from here, you can see he's a massive figure. He's huge, in relative scale to other G.I. Joe classified figures. So yeah, we're not gonna belabor the point with the stuff in here. We're gonna get it all out and get into it. All right, here we have Serpentor with all of his accessories arrayed before him, as I normally do. So he has his pet Cobra that it looks like you can put around the neck of a G.I. Joe guy, which is kind of fun. In the Serpentor commercial, he was literally threw a Cobra on top of Hawk, so unfortunately we don't have a Hawk to do that with yet, but that'll come. So of course he comes with one of his snakes from G.I. Joe the movie that he turned into a spear and you know, threw and put Duke into a coma rather than, you know, death, which was originally planned for that character. But the death of Optimus Prime changed some plans for a lot of people. It comes with a sword, and the funny thing about this sword is the shape is actually familiar. It almost looks like the knife that the 25th anniversary version came with, just they made it larger, so they gave him a sword. So I'm gonna pull out my 25th anniversary version of Serpentor too, just for comparison's sake. Then you've got the staff, which is a two-part staff. The Cobra head just goes on there like that, but it comes off, as you can see. And it's got this jewel encrusted thing on the end, which actually kind of looks like the stick from Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Kind of, not exactly. And then here you have the alternate helmet and cowl. They replaced these for, I guess, for articulation purposes, which you'll see here in a sec. And then he has his little techno arm thingy that they've converted into kind of a fang type weapon that has to be installed on Serpentor here, where he has a big square gap. So we're going to go ahead and install that for appearances. And then this longer one, I guess it's supposed to be like, it's sort of like Wolverine, where he, you know, I don't know where it goes or where it comes from, but you know, he can make it pop out. So that's kind of cool, even if we can't explain where that's all coming from. But yeah, there you go. Now, the figure itself is pretty cool. He has somewhat different kind of torso. He's really tight. As you can see, I'm trying to bend his arm. Don't want to bend. I might have to put some hot water on him. His arm doesn't want to articulate. There you go. This one will though. So you go there. I'm gonna try again. There we go. A little tough, but starting to work. But his appearance is like an updated version of the 1986 figure. The 25th anniversary took some different liberties with the Serpentor outfit. This one is a lot more true to the 1986 figure, even if not exact. It is more true to it. You know, he's got his boots and stuff is a little different than it was on the classic figure, the vintage figure. And he's got his some extra stylization going on there. You got that, and this cape, of course, has scales, which I think is really cool. Nice scales there. And his face portrait is pretty phenomenal. And like I said, his cowl, this is like a one-piece cowl, and there's a thing on his back that holds that in. And it definitely, you know, severely restricts his head and neck articulation. I think it's cool for, like, if you're just gonna stand him there looking evil or mean or whatever, that's fine. But we're definitely gonna try out the alternate head. You just pop it off like that. So as you can see, and you just replace through the cowl. So the cowl there. Now he has the normal I.Joe classified series head and neck articulation. Stick, there you go, you can stick that on top of there. So he does have a removable helmet. I would like to have him had a removable helmet with a head underneath, but maybe they can do that for the Battle of Springfield version if they ever do that. I think that would be really cool if they did that. So he's massively muscled, and he is massively detailed. Bravo efforts all around for this guy. So there's his back, there's his front. Articulate his head. And I think the consensus is amongst most people that that this is the way to go, because it just allows him more posability. I mean, it's not that this one looks bad or anything, but you know, if you want him to be dynamic and perhaps not necessarily having to look straight, then this is definitely the way to go. It's also more reminiscent of the original figure. So there you go, Serpentor and his accessories. Next up, we have the Air Chariot, which Serpentor comes with. And I think the Air Chariot is just a bigger draw as Serpentor. I mean, it's not some just pack in that they did. It's a fully realized Air Chariot, with all the features that the original had, plus a couple of extra. And that, I mean, you have here the mouth opens. The original toy was just one solid piece, and there's a gun in here that you can reveal, and I'm not doing a very good job of revealing it. Okay, so I'm trying to pull the gun down. There are also fangs in here. There we go. So there's fangs, and there's a little cannon in there, little gun, minigun. Okay. So you also have landing gear, which you did not have on the classic version or any subsequent repros. Landing gear there. And you got the spinning blade for the kind of helicopter action, but it's not really functional or anything. You know, it's hard to actually get it to do anything, but it works. You have this extra fin on top, which mine bent a little bit pulling it out of the box. That was my fault. It's okay. You're not looking at the back of this thing very much. But everything else is almost a one-for-one reproduction of the original piece with some upgrades like the paints there. You know, but it's a fully functional vehicle. It's got plenty of heft to it. It's not just like a afterthought. So you got the guns here, and they do articulate. They also come off, and the most ironic thing about it is these are 50 caliber Mod Deuce machine guns. So to get a 50 caliber machine gun that Roadblock can wield, we had to get Serpentor's Air Chariot. I do like the somewhat more realistic gun that they put on here than the old weird guns that they came with back in the day. Not that anything was wrong with those guns. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying this is sort of like clarity, almost like a clarifying feature. But it has handles, and you can have Serpentor Serpentor can carry it as a weapon. If you can get it in there. I don't want to scratch his paint or anything, so it's not that big of a deal. But he can use it as a weapon, and therefore soaking roadblock. But you know, most of the time they'll just stay mounted on the air chariots like that. So you can bring in Serpentor, sort of gear him up a little bit. Like you can stick his sword right there and give him his staff. Install him on his air chariot. The other pegs on his heels. Ooh, he's such a big, beefy figure. I mean, he is just gloriously massive. So there you go, complete package here. Serpentor on the air chariot. All right, next we're gonna do some comparisons. All right, so here we've got Serpentor with the Interrogator and Destro, who he was formed, created under the auspices of. Both Dr. Mindbender and Destro are, you know, looks like pretty healthy guys. So they're a little bit on the large side, but they are literally in the shadow of Serpentor. So you can see just how massive he is. Here we have Roadblock, who is, you know, one of the largest G.I. Joe classified figures. He's got the big body, him and Gung Ho. For comparison purposes, we'll bring in Gung Ho as well. He's bigger than those guys too. Sergeant Slaughter isn't here yet. Also, unfortunately, I can't do the Sergeant Slaughter comparison, but he'll be here in a couple of days. I have a review up of him as well, which I'm sure Serpentor will make a return for. Here he is with the relatively puny Snake Eyes. In the comic book, his eventual killer, Zartan, and one of his DNA donors, Storm Shadow. So you can see, you know, Serpentor literally towers over every other G.I. Joe classified figure to date. So yeah, I mean, he's the big imposing villain, right? And it always seemed to me that you know, Hasbro were, you know, kind of knew what they were doing with the cartoons, you know, in Transformers, the big imposing villain was Megatron, and he had the smarmy lieutenant. Whereas in G.I. Joe, the smarmy lieutenant was the leader, and the more imposing figure, which would have been Destro, was sort of like the second, the sidekick. But in 1986, they decided to switch it up and make an imposing villain for G.I. Joe, for Cobra. And of course, they simply made him the leader on the cartoon. But his file card, which I'll display here, he wasn't, according to Larry Hama, he wasn't just automatically the leader. He was just a political pawn for Destro and Dr. Mindbender. And in the comic, he definitely played with the idea of that he was more of a always scheming to try and become the leader. So there was sort of a rivalry with him and Cobra Commander. But Cobra Commander remained the leader of Cobra for the most part, with some twists and turns in there. One more comparison. We have the 25th anniversary Serpentor. This is the one that came in the pack with the air chariot and some Joes with some other accessories, vehicles and such. Here's the air chariot. And as you can see, they kept all the same stickers and decals. Of course, I think, yeah, or less, whoops. And the same details on the air chariot. There's some paint in there. And there was, on the 1986 version, there was no paint in that section that I just showed you. Sorry, I'm just putting this gun back on. And the cannons were just, sort of just generic kind of cannons. I like the idea of them being more deuces. And then there's the head of the air chariot. Actually, this one opens. Huh, that's fun. And there's a little gun in there. So the 25th anniversary version, they changed the head and gave it a little gun. The 1986 version was just a solid head. I mean, it was like a two-part head when you put it together, but it didn't have any articulation or any weird gun in there. Which the gun in here isn't painted. So they definitely, covered all the bases when they designed this figure. I alluded to the sword being a familiar shape. So, the sword is like a bigger version of the knife almost. They did rearrange where the Cobra head sits on it, but the idea is definitely there. You can see that. All right, the final word. All right, guys, Serpentor and the air chariot is everything you wanted it to be. Maybe even plus some. Way I got it figured, he's a 10. If I could give him an 11, I would, on a 10-point scale. But we're gonna say he's a 10. If you can get your hands on this figure, or if you got one, then count yourself lucky, because he's a sight to behold. I mean, it's at least up to this point, what I would call the ultimate G.I. Joe classified figure. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. I am going to be reviewing Sergeant Slaughter. Probably going to be next week. I've got a few Marvel Legends reviews still yet to do, and some Transformers 2. The Victory Saber set will be shipping out on December 5th, along with the Crimson Guardsmen from Hasbro Pulse. So look forward to that. So yeah, we still got some gas left in the tank for 2022. All right, if you like the content, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. I do respond to all comments, and I'm always looking to improve. Until then, everybody, till next time, please stay safe and have a good evening. See you on the next one.